Dawn spilled softly over the Georgia Search and Rescue Center as a determined calm settled in the early light. Pandora, a famed German shepherd with 8 years of brave service and more than 800 rescues under her collar, moved through her morning routine with slow, measured steps. Her joints ached with the weight of years, and her heart ticked like a worn-out clock, yet her eyes blazed with the same fierce resolve that had once pulled many from danger. Today, she faced her final assignment, a task that would demand every bit of her seasoned courage and keen instinct. An elderly woman, Margaret Lancaster, suffering from dementia, had disappeared into the relentless, shadowed woods of Meadowbrook County. The pressure was immense. Even her longtime partner, handler James Morrison, hesitated as he weighed the risk, but Pandora's steady focus left no room for doubt. This mission was clearly her destiny. But what Pandora uncovered deep within the wilderness was not simply a lost person. It was a heart-wrenching secret that showcased her timeless wisdom, her unyielding loyalty, and the extraordinary bond linking people with their canine allies. As the morning sun stretched long shadows across the training grounds, James observed his 8-year companion, Pandora, moving with a precise yet measured grace through her routine. The once bold leaps had become careful, controlled motions, hints of arthritis in every calculated pause. At 12 years old, Pandora had long surpassed the usual retirement age for search and rescue dogs, but her relentless spirit and proven record had earned her a special place in the program. James recalled the days when a young, eager puppy, chosen for her gentle nature and smarts, raced across the fields with an unmarked, pure black coat, a stark contrast to the speckles of grey, now dusting her muzzle and chest. And they had grown together over time, quietly learning each other's cues until they moved as one. Her capability was still unquestionable. Sarah Chun, the centre's lead trainer, joined him quietly, watching Pandora's careful pace. "I've never seen a dog with so much heart," she remarked, her voice soft with admiration. James nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat as memories of a veterinarian's grave warning echoed in his mind. Her heart was failing faster than expected. This might be her last month in action," he murmured, unable to finish his thought before Sarah gently reassured him. She's earned every bit of her rest." Then, without warning, the facility's emergency alert erupted, its crisp message slicing through the calm. All available 9 units, a critical situation in Meadowbrook County, a missing elderly woman, Margaret Lancaster, 78, with advanced dementia and without her medication, was reported 3 hours overdue. The landscape of Meadowbrook County, riddled with tangled woods, steep ravines and meandering creeks, was no friend to a search in the scorching summer heat. Sarah immediately offered to take the younger German shepherd, Baker, suggesting that James and Pandora should handle this one. Yet, even as she spoke, Pandora's ears pricked and her whole body tensed, ready as if she'd been waiting for this very moment. James felt torn. This was the kind of high-stakes search that had built Pandora's reputation, yet he also knew the toll it would take on her fragile body and failing heart. Sensing his inner conflict, Pandora pressed her snout against his hand, her deep, unwavering eyes speaking a silent, let's go. "All right," James said quietly. "We'll take this one. But Sarah, you and Baker stay in backup." The ride to Meadowbrook County was heavy with anticipation as the search vehicle rumbled along. Pandora lay quietly, conserving energy, while James absorbed the update over the radio. Ayo. Margaret had wandered during lunch prep, and though the initial search had canvassed her neighbourhood, her habit of meandering to a far-off church meant she could have travelled a significant distance. When they reached the Lancaster home, the scene was a chaotic mix of police cruisers, clustered neighbours, and frantic energy. Elizabeth, Margaret's daughter, rushed forward in a near-tearful flurry, relieved yet desperate. "Thank God you're here. Mom's never been gone this long. She doesn't have her walker, her meds." And with this heat, James nodded, his sympathy deep as he followed protocol. Elizabeth returned with a lightly worn cardigan, a treasured piece she had put on just yesterday, because it reminded her of her childhood in England. As James took the garment, he observed Pandora's sudden intense interest, her nose twitching at the familiar scent. Following the standard procedure, James allowed Pandora a moment to absorb the scent, watching her evaluate the old fabric with practiced precision. But something in her behaviour had shifted, a subtle, urgent focus he had never seen before. We'll start with the route to the church you mentioned, he told Elizabeth, and let Pandora guide us if we need to adjust our path. As they began the search, the typical grid pattern gave way to an unexplained urgency. Pandora's steps were sure and determined, as if leading them along an unseen trail. They left the safe comfort of the neighborhood for harsher, forgotten terrain, where the summer sun beat down unrelentingly. James kept a sharp eye on his partner, noticing she halted only momentarily to verify the familiar scent. After an hour's trek through undergrowth and past fallen trees, they encountered a steep ravine. Pandora showed signs of weariness. Her breaths came heavier, just as James was about to suggest a rest. Then, out of the blue, she straightened, her body stiffening with alertness. "Oh, what is it, girl? What do you smell?" he asked. Instead of heading down into the gully, Pandora veered east along an old hiking trail, quickening her pace despite her fatigue. James increased his speed to keep up until the trail led them to a small clearing. Low. Partially hidden behind a towering oak tree sat Margaret Lancaster on a fallen log, appearing confused yet unharmed. With a mixed look of fear and relief, she softly uttered in her distinct British lilt, "Oh, have you come to take me to church? I'm sure I'm late for services." James immediately radioed their location while Pandora shifted from a determined searcher to a reassuring presence. Tentatively, Margaret reached out to pet her head. Oh, what a lovely dog," she murmured, recalling a long-forgotten memory of her father's faithful shepherd from Yorkshire. Within minutes, the clearing burst with emergency personnel rushing in. Elizabeth's tears of relief and gratitude mingled with the chaotic energy of rescue. All the while, Pandora stayed close to Margaret, standing guard until it was clear she safe. Then, in a moment that made James's heart tighten, he noticed something new in Pandora. She edged away from the group, casting one last look at the trail, a pause that spoke volumes after so many successful rescues. In that silent, poignant moment, he realized that Pandora had silently signaled her farewell. "We'll take this one," he whispered to Sarah, confirming his decision, but the weight of what was happening pressed on him. The drive back to the facility was subdued, filled with unspoken understanding. Back at her kennel, instead of her usual alertness, Pandora exuded a serene contemplation as she settled in her spot. James frequently glanced at the rearview mirror, memorizing her gentle, restful image. Later, as James prepared the rescue report, Sarah stopped by. "He heard about Margaret's rescue. A real miracle from Team Morrison," she said softly. With reddened eyes, James explained, it wasn't just another rescue. It was her final one. Sarah's confusion was clear. "What do you mean? I thought she had a few weeks left." His voice cracked with emotion as he recounted the way Pandora had looked back at the trail after finding Margaret. "She's always known when someone needs her, and now I think she's telling us she's had enough," he admitted. Choked. Sarah sat silently, sharing the heaviness of the moment, understanding that Pandora was unique, not only in what she'd done, but in the love and loyalty that defined her life. The next morning, James arrived early to find Pandora awake in her kennel, exuding a quiet dignity. In the soft, early light. She greeted him with her familiar, gentle tail wag, yet there was a finality in her calm presence. With deliberate care, James led her out to their favorite training field, as the rising sun painted the Georgia sky in warm shades of pink and gold. For a long while they stood together, absorbing the quiet majesty of the new day. Then, with soft reverence, James removed her search and rescue vest for the last time. "You've earned your rest, old friend," he whispered, caressing her fur gently. Pandora leaned into him as they watched younger dogs burst with energy across the field. A stark contrast to her composed stillness. In the weeks that followed, Pandora settled into retirement with the same gentle grace that had marked her years of service. She spent her days quietly in James's office, occasionally watching training sessions and offering a calming presence to new handlers and their eager dogs. Her final rescue had spread through the community, and senior centers began inviting her for visits, hoping her quiet empathy could lift spirits. One day, Margaret Lancaster, now feeling clearer than on the rescue day, came to sit with Pandora. They talked for over an hour, Margaret reminiscing about her childhood in Yorkshire and the shepherd dog from her past, while Pandora listened with a thoughtful calm that deepened the bond between them. But as summer slowly turned to autumn, Pandora's health started declining more rapidly. The veterinarian confirmed what James feared. Her failing heart was growing weaker. Still, every day, she greeted the world with quiet dignity, her eyes bright, full of love. On a crisp October morning, James found Pandora standing by the facility's gate earlier than usual, gazing down the familiar road they had travelled so many times together. She stood still for a long moment, as if seeing far beyond the everyday world, before gently pressing her head against his hand, a silent farewell. In that final look, James saw not sorrow, but the calm acceptance of a life devoted to service. Later that day, in the company of those who cherished her, Pandora breathed her last. Her passing was as graceful and dignified as her long, faithful service. In the years that followed, Pandora's legacy endured at the Georgia Search and Rescue Center. Her photograph hung proudly beside statistics that could only hint at the true measure of her story. 844 successful searches, countless lives saved, and 8 years of dedicated service. But what people remembered best were the heartfelt stories of her final rescue, and the quiet way she taught them that wisdom sometimes means knowing when to step back. A new generation of search and rescue dogs now trained on the fields where Pandora had once roamed, carrying forward the tradition of service, sacrifice, and loyalty. On quiet mornings, handlers whispered her name in reverent tones, sharing tales of the legendary dog who not only found the lost but knew when to let go. Margaret Lancaster lived 3 more years after that fateful rescue, and even as her memory began to fade, she never forgot the gentle dog who had found her that summer day. In her final moments, she spoke of tender eyes and a reassuring presence that made her feel safe and understood. A connection that went beyond words. For James Morrison, Pandora's legacy was deeply personal. He continued training new handlers and their dogs, passing on not just techniques, but the deeper lessons learned from a lifelong partnership. He taught them that the bond between a handler and a dog goes beyond routine. It's built on trust, respect, and the quiet wisdom of knowing when your partner is trying to tell you something vital. In the end, Pandora's story became a lasting testament to the extraordinary power of love, service, and the subtle art of letting go when the time has come.